Hi, Jonathan York from Bay Financial Partners, looking at the investment markets. Certainly one thing is for sure with President Trump, there's never really a dull moment. This week has obviously marked a pretty historic occurrence with a meeting there between himself and Kim Jong-un from North Korea, face-to-face meeting. According to Mr. Trump, it went exceedingly well. It's going to be a great success and they'll certainly make some big strides going forward. That appears to be the sort of rhetoric coming out of the meeting. Yet to see the exact wording of the document that they signed, but again, really a pretty historic meeting, and it would have been, quite interesting to see what sort of odds you would have got on this meeting taking place just 12 months ago. So maybe the king of deal making really has sort of come through, and it's now just going to be interesting to see how he does sort of play through. Obviously, the denuclearization of North Korea is pretty paramount to that, and it's just going to be interesting to see how that sort of manages to be sort of incorporated and more importantly put into place. But on the flip side of that, just before he attended the G7 meeting, and was really sort of pretty rude, pretty abrupt, pretty aggressive, coming out and sort of pretty much slating most of the other participants, and his favourite sort of social media platform, Twitter, coming out and having certainly a pretty major go at President Trudeau from Canada. And again, it's just going to be interesting to see how that sort of paves the way going forward for the G7. The US didn't sort of endorse the communique that came out at the end, which was really sort of pretty weak and pretty watered down. And it's just going to be interesting, I say very interesting now to see how it sort of plays through. Trump again was pushing for Russia to be included. They were excluded, if you remember, back in 2014 after the annexation of Crimea. And it's just going to be interesting to see, whether Trump can sort of manage to get Putin and Russia back to the table. So against that backdrop of the sort of geopolitical issues, you've got the Fed meeting this week as well. It's going to be interesting to see if they do sort of push forward with their proposed rate hike. Markets have got about sort of 85-90% certainty that it will take place. And then it's just going to be interesting to see the sort of dot plot, if you like, on how their sort of future rate hikes going forward are going to be put into place. Will we see another 2 this year? And how many will we see in 2019? At the present, it's looking like 3 rate hikes. But maybe some of the work is already being done because, interest rates in the US are sort of edging up. 10-year is sort of, 3% now. And 30-year as well is so it's edging up a little bit, and it's just going to be interesting to see how that sort of pushes through, and then what sort of impact that has on the economy. Because certainly at the moment the data coming out of the US is still pretty strong, and also corporate earnings are pretty good as well. Added to that, you've got a bit of a housing shortage in the US as well, especially at the sort of lower end as well. which is sort of pushing house price inflation through. And again, that's just all sort of putting it into the melting pot and maybe getting those inflation targets back to more sort of levels that the central banks are looking for. Europe facing a pretty key time as well. The Italian government sort of back in focus. They managed to get a couple of bonds away, but again, it's a little bit sort of like walking on eggshells, and it's just going to be interesting to see how the sort of new government settles down and beds itself in, and then to see how it sort of progresses its policies over the next sort of 3 to 6 months. Certainly it is sort of pretty anti-establishment, and it's just going to be interesting to see how that sort of weaves in with the sort of EU membership. Big week as well in the UK, big Brexit debate taking place in Parliament, which potentially has the ability to be able to sort of derail the sort of Brexit negotiations. And certainly Theresa May and the government face a pretty tough task trying to get that sort of sorted out and through the House of Parliament. Oil is still under a little bit of pressure. Potentially you've got some increase in supply coming through. That sort of pushed WTI back sort of around sort of 65, and Brent sort of down around sort of 72, 73 bucks a barrel. Obviously that's quite a way back from the sort of 70 and sort of 80 that was only sort of traded really sort of 2 to 3 weeks ago. Here in New Zealand, time's running out to check those KiwiSaver balances to make sure you're going to get the maximum tax credits. If you're unsure on those, call us on 0800 867 323. A couple of fixed interest issues in the New Zealand bond offering as well. You've got Meridian with a bond offering in the marketplace, 7 years. Not too sure what the rate will be yet. Indication will be sort of maybe 4.26 to maybe 4.36 with a minimum of 4.2. Genesis are also looking at a retail offering as well, and if they do succeed in that, that will replace the GPL FAs. Coupon on those is 6.19, so you'd have to sort of surmise that for Genesis to come through and potentially repay those. They'll obviously be able to get funding away at obviously a much cheaper level. Again, if you look at it, the Meridian indication rate is just say sort of 4.3 average. Genesis presumably will be looking at something similar to that. And obviously that's quite a saving on their interest payments. But again, if you are interested in those two offerings, call us on 0800 867 323 or go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz. So really, it's just going to be interesting to see on what really comes out of the sort of North Korea-US summit. Certainly, obviously, from North Korea's perspective, they'll be looking for some sort of relief on the tariffs and obviously an increase in the trade with the rest of the world. Potentially as well, that could be good for New Zealand. Certainly, potentially, you would have to say that the US is going to be driving the gain to be made out there. But potentially, it could be good for the rest of the world as well. So if you're interested in those two bond offerings, say call us on 0800 867 323 or go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz for lots of interesting articles. We look forward to speaking to you soon.